Should a player be DQ'd for sledgehammering a sprinkler head with their golf club?
Oh, we're going right to the heart of it, right from question one. I love it. Let's go.
Yeah, what do you think? Is that a legitimate
I don't
stance
know.
of yours?
Has that recently happened?
Oh
What
yeah.
are we talking about? What
This is
happened?
hypothetical. This is totally
Hypothetical?
hypothetical.
Yeah. Yeah, I did post about that. I do, and this is kind of right up your alley, right? With what
Mm-hmm.
you do and what you coach. I understand that it is the most frustrating game. I totally get that, and I get that people are going to have frustration, but to damage something like that, like to throw a club. I think it's bad for him. If you remember a few years back, remember when Rahm launched his club back towards his bag and he almost hit there was a woman there. I think she was the standard bearer maybe, or somebody that was there almost hit her. I think maybe he kind of grazed her. And then who was it? The guy with the curly mustache. What's it? I can't think of his name now.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
He blasted the tee marker.
Yes,
Alex Van Rooyen.
Van Ryan.
Yeah, Van Rooyen blasted a tee marker and some guy got shrapnel. I just don't think I don't think it's a good thing. And, there's a lot of things that are really interesting around that topic, but I think it's a bad thing and it should be a DQ. I think people should control their emotions better.
Yeah. So obviously that's a jokey question, like a hot button topic type thing. But as far as, I mean, you've got a lot of experience in this game, whether it's yourself or seeing other people. But I mean, what do you think causes anger like that? Like why do players get that angry, do you think?
I'm sure there's probably a whole host of reasons. I think for some people, they get embarrassed by what has happened and, they're embarrassed what other people are thinking of them. Like they're supposed to be really good at golf or, they're supposed to be better at golf than what they just displayed. And they feel embarrassed, and that embarrassment, again, this is dime store psychology stuff. That embarrassment, turns to anger, and they release that anger somehow. I also think, it's so many of us that are older, and even now, still to this day, like it's an example that we see often in sports, where you have coaches, historically for a long time, many years, just screaming at their players, on and on and on. And we learn that, if you have to be, if you really care, you're going to show that you're angry. And well, like when you really get angry, okay, if you really care and you have golf left to play, you probably want to shoot the best score you possibly can that day, and getting angry probably isn't going to help you. So if you truly, really cared, you probably wouldn't get angry because it's not going to help you what you want to achieve. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind
Absolutely.
of how I think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you care about how you play, then you want to play your best, and anger stops you from playing your best usually. And
Yeah.
you're
So
angry.
why would you? So why would you do that?
Yeah, right.
Why would you do
And
that?
you're angry because you're not getting to play your best in the very first place. So it feels like it helps, right? And it probably maybe helped when you were younger, right? It focused you or something, but now it's not super helpful.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. There's lots of interesting questions in the game of golf. I mean, there's been, Hadwin is catching a lot of flack for that. Other players have caught a lot of flack recently for throwing clubs and things like that. But, in the grand scheme of things, is it the worst offense in the world? No. I mean, think about Tiger.
Yeah.
Like Tiger, like when he got arrested for DUI and then pled guilty to something a lesser charge, but like we all remember that and what happened. Out driving around like that, probably not a good idea.
Right.
Like is that a lot worse than breaking a sprinkler head? Like I think some people would argue that it is. So breaking a sprinkler head in the grand scheme of things is not the worst offense in life. We all make mistakes. People do things that are a lot worse, and nobody talks about it at all. Yeah. So anyway,
sure.
I would personally like to see guys handle those situations differently, because people are watching, and it's not fair to say they're role models. I kind of agree with that perspective, but kids are watching and they see that, and
yeah.
And it's not on Hadwin to be a role model for some 8-year-old kid, but they see that behavior and they're like, now they start to react the same way because they kind of mimic what they see. Anyway, I feel like I'm on a soapbox, so I'm going to stop.
I set you on that soapbox, but is there, you're at this cool intersection of statistics and how to improve and how to play better. Is there, in your work with players or in your own game, is there, this is probably too vague of a question, but is there anything like statistic related that can lead to anger? And how am I trying to ask this? Jump in if you are catching my drift on the question.
Yeah, so I think that, and this is one of the things that I talk about all the time, manage your expectations. And I think that's so important to understand what realistic performance looks like for your skill level. Now, everyone has different skill levels. So what's realistic for your skill level? And it's important to kind of have an idea that you're going to have a range of outcomes and what that range of outcomes might look like, so that when you are in the fairway and you have 100 yards to the flag and you have a wedge in your hand, and you hit it to 30 feet and you get mad and you slam your club back in the bag, that might have been a really great shot for you as a 9 index. It's a great shot. You should celebrate those. And I think understanding a reasonable range of outcomes for your skill level can help give you proper expectations. And I think what happens sometimes is if your expectations are unreasonable, like if you think every wedge should be inside of 10 feet, and you don't hit that wedge inside of 10 feet and you slam the club back in the bag, and that anger and the frustration builds. And typically when we get mad, we get angry on the golf course. It doesn't lead to better play. It just doesn't most of the time for most people. So getting angry over something that was well within your reasonable range of outcomes, or maybe even on the better side of your range of outcomes because your expectations are so far out of whack, is, I think, really, it's helpful to know that so that you don't get angry, because then that just kind of builds and it snowballs. And, before you know it, 3 or 4 holes later, after another errant shot, now it's full blown slamming clubs, swearing, you're done. You just want to walk off the golf course at that point. So knowing what's reasonable, I think, can help that. And right at the beginning of Every Shot Counts, Foley tells the story about Justin Rose, who thought he needed to work on his wedges. And,
That's right.
And Foley's like, well, you're like this best or second best wedge player in the world. Like, what are you talking about? And Greg Chalmers on my podcast told the same story about his putting, or same thing. He thought his game was in a little bit of a slump and he blamed his putter, and we got to work on the putter, coach. And the coach pulled up strokes gained putting, and he's like, you're second on the tour on PGA Tour in strokes gained putting right now. What are you talking about? Like,
right.
It's not your putting. Like, what do you mean? And so, like, we all sometimes don't have a grasp of our performance. We have our own bias built in, and we don't have reasonable expectations for what good is.
Yeah, it's not even knowing what someone like me might do. It's what do I actually do? Like, how good am I actually? And if you don't have a good concept of that, you're just responding emotionally to how you feel in the moment. Right?
Yeah,
like I
totally
missed
agree.
one 5-footer, and it's got to be my putting, right? And I don't know if that's what Chalmers is specifically dealing with, but
well, this was a while ago. This was a while ago. He told the story on the podcast. This was a while ago, and I'm guessing what happened is he probably missed an 8-footer to miss a cut, and then that just better than most people that we tend to remember the bad things a lot better than we remember the good things.
Yeah.
Our brain is wired to be that way, and so he remembered the bad thing about missing this putt that maybe cost him a cut, and now that's where the bias starts to kick in. Now, every time he misses a putt, which, from 8 feet, you don't make every putt, even as a tour player. They're 50-50. across the tour. Some are a little bit better, some are a little bit worse. So you're going to miss a lot of putts from 8 feet. And my guess is every time he missed a putt, like he could have been making 55% of his 8-footers, which would have been really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But the 45% of the time he missed, he was going, see, I'm a horrible putter. It's ruining my game.
Yeah.
And it's
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, just feeds the problem.
And yeah. So the idea of knowing your own skill level, knowing where you stand, or maybe how you should be playing based on your skill level, even the best putter on the tour needs to understand expectations. But how does a player like that, how can you kind of consolidate that info for yourself? Is it something that everyone should be doing of like, okay, Lou's put out a bunch of charts on the different parts of the game. I need to have these. I need to memorize them. I need to know them like the back of my hand. How should we be ingesting data like that?
Yes, you should memorize everything I've ever put out. You should spend your evenings around the fireplace with your family reviewing all this information, because nobody wants to do. You're going to have more fun than you've ever had with your family if you start just trying to memorize golf stats with them. So yes, I fully agree.
Okay, but how much should we be keeping in our mind at all of the time?
Yeah, it's a good question. When you're out there, I don't think you should have anything in your mind, really. I try to, people think that I'm out there with an abacus and a calculator and shouting stuff at my buddies when I'm playing, and that's just the complete opposite of what I'm like on the golf. You really would have, you'd be surprised at what I'm like on the golf course. So that's the last thing that I think about. It's the last thing I want to talk about. The only time it ever comes up is if one of my playing partners says, "Oh, what are the chances to hit this shot inside of 2 feet?" And I'll just guess because I haven't memorized everything.
Probably zero.
Yeah, for you, zero. Like some of my buddies, whatever they ask me, it's always, they're like, what's the chances of like inside of 30 feet here? I'm like, for you, it's zero. So it's, my standard answer. It's common. I give that to a lot of my buddies. But I think that's why, your question, it really is why you should be tracking your own stats. Using something to track your stats so you can gather that information and assess and understand afterwards. And it's also really important to not look at things in isolation. You can't look at a one round and go, my driver's horrible. You can't look at one putt and say, my putter's just, it's so bad. I'm never going to get good at this game. You have to look at larger sample sizes. You have to look at how you're performing over a period of 5-10 rounds, whatever the number might be. And it's going to be maybe a little bit different depending on who you are. If you are someone that's playing, if you're retired and you're playing 4 times a week, you can look at, 15, 20 rounds worth of data to get an idea of how you're trending over that period of time and look at how that might be changing, getting better, getting worse. But if you're someone that plays once a week, 20 rounds of golf is, a season for you practically.
Right.
So it's a little bit tougher for you if that's kind of where you fall into. So I would tell you, no, you don't want to memorize stats. I think it's a good idea to have, some basics. You can certainly refer to some of the stuff I've put out there. And then a stat tracking app is going to really help you shed a lot of light on your game and give you some of that information to help you have reasonable expectations.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the difficulty is, and some of the players that I interact with or talk with say, I've got an 8-footer for a PGA Tour player. It's a coin flip. I'm going to make this as if I'm at the best in the world, I'm going to make this only half the time. And they might say that is hurtful to know, because now uh, I'm standing over this kind of saying I might miss this, and if I'm beyond that, if I'm 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet, I'm probably going to miss this. So that as a mentality over a putt is probably not super helpful. So how can you have that knowledge while also committing? I don't know. How do you deal with that? I'm sure you've heard that kind of
Yeah,
thing before.
people, when I share some of these things, and I talk about managing your expectations, and I talk about, a reasonable range of outcomes. People think, manage your expectations means lessen your expectations, and it doesn't. It doesn't, not at all. Every single shot that you stand over, you should be trying to execute it exactly as you are intending. So if you're trying to hit your 5 iron 30 feet right of the flag and exactly pin high, like you're dialed in to hit that, and you're going to do everything you can in your power to have that golf ball finish exactly where you want it to be. And in the case of an 8-foot putt, you want it to finish exactly in the hole. And so your intention is to execute the shot perfectly as you're planning. But you have to then realize that it's just not going to happen too often. Doesn't mean you don't try, doesn't mean you don't give it everything you have. It just means that you're not going to achieve that outcome every single time. And that's the benefit of tracking your stats. You can now look and if you think like the Justin Rose example, I have an issue with my wedges. Well, I can pull up Arcos, which is what I use, and I can look and see what my strokes gained is from a certain distance. And I can go, oh, like from 75 to 100 yards, like I'm actually doing pretty good. Like I'm gaining strokes from that distance against whatever handicap baseline I'm comparing myself to. Hey, maybe I don't really have a problem there. I'm doing okay. Like, yeah, do I want to hit every shot perfect? Sure, who doesn't? But I'm not going to, but it's not a problem area for me. And that's the one thing that stats does is it removes the gray and it gives you black and white as to where you're performing well and where you're not performing well.
Yeah. I like the kind of use the data to plan the shot and then use the data to accept the result. But kind of in the middle is like, okay, I've done my planning. I'll be cool with this after the fact, but right now I know where I'm aiming and that's where I want it to go.
Yeah.
Is that a
Absolutely.
decent framework?
Yeah.
A before and after?
Yeah, absolutely.
Data?
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. What's you just mentioned Arcos. I've talked about several different kind of stat tracking GPS type things. What's the latest with Arcos? Has there been any kind of recent updates to it or anything cool new about it?
There's some really cool stuff that I can't talk about.
Of course.
I'll say that there's some really cool stuff that I can't talk about.
Got it.
And my head has been kind of wrapped around that recently.
Sure.
They're always they have a team of incredibly smart people working there. One of our friends from Twitter, Hutch Golf. If you follow him, listeners, like he's the senior director of data science. Brilliant guy, scratch golfer, just won his club championship. They're doing some unbelievable things, and they're always improving things behind the scenes. Whether it's something that's visibly that you will see and you can see exactly how it's different, how it's changed, or it's the plumbing underneath where they're making it better in the roadmap. I wish I could share some of the roadmap because there's just some cool stuff that's in flight. There's some amazing things going on there. They partnered with, he became part of Arcos last year, Eduardo Molinari. And Eduardo is the one that, he's the analytics mastermind around the European Ryder Cup team. And he does stats and analytics work for 40 plus tour professionals.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So he does a ton of guys on the PGA Tour. He has LPGA players. He has DP World Tour players, and he has, I think, a few live players, I think. But yeah, he's doing some really advanced stuff at the top levels of the game, including being the analytics guy for the European Ryder Cup team. So I've told him on more than one occasion I'm going to try to sabotage
I was
those
about to
efforts
say,
this year. Yeah, like I'm going to do what I can to,
feed him bad info.
yeah, I'm going to move a decimal place here or there. I'm going to see how I can try to give the United States an
Yeah,
advantage in that
do it.
one.
We need all the help we can get.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of that stuff is trickling into the product. I'll just say that
Yeah.
it's kind of trickling into the
Yeah.
product without saying too much more than that. So, it's a really cool place to be affiliated with. Incredibly passionate, incredibly smart people doing some really cool stuff, and they're just constantly. There's no status quo, which is what I really like. They're just constantly making it better and always making it better and always driving towards more. So it's really cool to be a part of it.
That's
A
awesome.
really small, tiny part of it.
Oh well, you're even if you're just at someone's face of it. Like to me, you and Hutch are like the face of Arcos, and so I'm like, I trust you guys, so I
Yeah.
like what you
Well,
guys
I'm
do.
definitely the prettier face of Arcos, and if it's between Hutch and I, Hutch, I hope you're listening.
That's fair. That's fair. Do you ever diverge from your own kind of data or your own kind of preaching? Do you ever sin against your own preaching? I guess would be the way I'm trying to put it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clarify that a little
Okay.
bit.
So you're out on the golf course.
Yeah.
You are 82 yards, and the flag is 4 off the left or something. Do you ever say, I'm going straight at it. I don't care about the data. I'm doing it because I believe I can do it.
So I believe that there is a mathematically optimal target on every shot, but I believe that changes based on circumstances. I believe that changes based on factors like how are you playing. I think that is part of the equation because you're a really good player, right? Almost got a trip to the Masters. Good player. So that's elite levels of the game. And I've never been at your level, but I get to coach Division I golf, and we have some really incredibly talented players that play. And and they know, and I know that at your level, and even at my level, that some days you're hitting your window, like it's going where you're looking, and you are just playing well, and you're confident and when you're doing that, I think you need to be more aggressive when you're doing that. I think golf is like blackjack, where if you go play blackjack and you go to the casino and you never played before, you get that card and it gives you all, like exactly what you should do in every situation, and
I
that's so
didn't know that. Okay.
you can maximize your odds. But if you really wanted to maximize your odds in playing blackjack, you'd count cards. And like, be careful. Don't the casinos frown on that. I don't really play blackjack, so I don't even know if you can technically do it anymore with how they do the shoes or whatever. So, but back in the day, or if you still can, like counting cards would now allow you to, when the count's in your favor, you bet really big. And you do that so you can maximize profits. And when the count is not in your favor, you put one chip out there to bet. You bet as small as you possibly can. And so when things are going well for you, you're trying to maximize your potential gain. And when things are going really poorly for you, you're trying to minimize your loss. And on the blackjack table, I look at golf the same way. And so when you're playing really, really well, I think you can be a little more aggressive. And I think you're leaving shots on the table by not doing that. And when you're playing really poorly, you need to be more conservative. Like that normal target for everyday golf is probably too aggressive for you, especially if you're playing tournament golf like you play, where there's a lot of holes, like 3, 4, 5 from the edge. And a lot of us weekend players, most of us are not seeing that on a regular basis. So like we're not playing pins as tough as, high level tournament golf. But, I do not think that it's always, well, I'm 82 yards and here's the flag and I need to be exactly here. Like that could change. There's so many other factors beyond how I'm playing. Like what's the wind direction? what kind of trouble would I get into if I missed on the short side? There's lots of things to factor. Golf shots are never exactly the same. There's always different, but I do sometimes, if I'm playing well, and which I haven't played well in a long time now, since the end of 2022. But I had rounds at the end of 2022 where I was just playing well and being really aggressive. But now I tend to be a whole lot more conservative because I'm not exactly sure where the ball's going to go.
Sure. Yeah. So then if kind of how it's going currently is part of the equation, is it okay, when I'm playing well, my dispersion pattern is smaller?
Yeah.
So therefore I can
Exactly.
I don't have to allow for as much?
Yeah. It's a great way to think about it. When you're playing really well, your dispersion pattern gets a lot tighter because you're hitting your windows, you're flighting it how you want to flight it, you're curving it how you want to curve it, you're curving it the amount that you want to curve it. You're playing well. And you've had those days where I'm sure you go out there and you hit 16 greens, 17 greens, and you're just absolutely, it's a stripe show all day long. In those situations, I think you can be more aggressive. Again, you have to always, weigh the range of outcomes. If you have a pin cut 3 from the edge and there's water, it's the 17th at Sawgrass type of situation where it's just a complete drop off, then yeah, probably not the best idea.
Right.
Probably not the best idea.
Yeah. So I guess I just get curious about the
Hold on
kind
a
of
second. There's a spider on my
Oh,
camera.
goodness.
Yeah, just a little tiny baby one. I got it.
Lou's turning into Spider-Man.
Yeah.
In front of me. So the did you got it? You killed
got it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Take that, Spider. The idea of letting emotion come into it. So is that a different thing completely than what we're talking about? Is kind of playing emotionally?
Elaborate on that a bit.
Okay.
So,
and it is I guess it can get kind of gray area where, okay, what would determine I'm playing emotionally versus I'm playing kind of by the numbers? And
I think you're am I just trying to, I've just lost a few bets on the blackjack table and I'm trying to get it back. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a dangerous spot to be in. In golfers, I think golfers do the opposite of what I just said. When you're playing really well, and when you're playing really well, you can't just lie to yourself. When you're playing really well and you're hitting the shots how you want to hit them. And you should be more aggressive in that situation. And when you're playing really poorly, you should be more conservative. Many golfers do the opposite. When they're playing poorly and they get down a few, they try to get aggressive to get it back. Well, not a good idea. When you're playing poorly, your dispersion gets bigger. When your dispersion is bigger, you need to have a different target because you are hitting it into a larger area. So trying to get something back is a bad combination in golf, right? Because then you're just more likely, if you're firing at flags and you're hitting it all over the place, you're more than likely going to short side yourself more than you want. And when you short side yourself more than you want, it just becomes really challenging to get the ball in the hole. And then you start to make suspect choices. You carry your 3-wood 245 80% of the time, and you got 253 cover, and you're I got this shot, and it's into an 8-mile-an-hour wind, and the ball comes up 20 yards short in the lake, and you slam your club, and rinse and repeat. So bad combination.
And because you did that, now I have to be even more aggressive on the next one to make up for that. It spirals.
Yeah, it spirals. I've seen it. I've been there, right? I've been there. I definitely, I definitely was. There's a time in my life where I was a whole lot more. What's the right word? Passionate? No, not passionate. It's not the right word.
Disciplined?
Sure.
Oh,
immature.
The opposite. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was a whole lot more immature on the golf course years ago. Now, I don't I play in a Tuesday night league. I don't really, I play in some club events. I don't really play competitive golf anymore. And I'm nowhere near capable as I was. So I'm just out there basically trying to have fun. I could go out and shoot 77. I could go out there and shoot 74. I could go out there and shoot 92. And you would really not know it because I'm out there and I'm going to have fun no matter what. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. You recently put something out about the kind of regular, typical distribution of scores is kind of across everyone is about 17 shots. Is that yours?
Yeah, roughly. I think that everybody kind of falls into that. I've always been a little bit higher variance player. So I've always been, a little bit more than that. Even like when I was a scratch, it wasn't unusual for me to, like, I could shoot 68 in a season and I could shoot 90 in a season, like when things went really crazy sideways. So I would be a little bit higher than 17 shots, and my standard deviation would be a little bit higher than most people. Still have that problem, but it's getting better.
But is your range like a 75 to 92? Is that kind of where you're looking?
Now, yeah, probably around that. Like I finished, like my index is like 6.5 now, something like that.
That's
7.
pretty good.
Trying to get it back. Since I hurt my ankle, it's been a struggle.
That's right.
It's been a real struggle.
Sheesh.
Just not the same afterwards.
Yeah. Has golf? Do you have a light at the end of the tunnel right now as far as golf getting started? Is it about to?
I've been trying to make swing changes. And that's hard, man. Like I need your help. I need to hotline to you every day to talk me off the ledge.
Yeah.
It's hard to make swing changes.
It is.
And I've worked with a few different people. I've made some big strides with some of the things I've been trying to change. But the moment I try to add speed, everything just kind of creeps back in. I hit so many shots with my other swing, hundreds of thousands of shots. And how I was able to, get down to the index that I played at for a long time is really kind of fascinating, because I have a really not a good move. Like you'd look at it and you'd be like, all right, this dude's a 17 handicap. But I got really effective at getting the club on the golf ball. But I did it in a really, really, poor way, but I'd hit so many golf balls.
Right.
All the time. Like every day. If I wasn't hitting 100, 150 golf balls every single day, that wasn't enough. So I hit golf balls a lot and just kind of grooved what I had. And now trying to change that is incredibly hard. It's so challenging. And I'd say it's rewarding, but it's not. It's really, really challenging because I just want to move differently and I can't, or I struggle to get there. And so trust me, I understand the frustration part, but I try to just move a little bit every single day with respect to where the swing is. I don't know that I'll ever be comfortable even if I get to a completely different swing how I want it to be. I don't know that I'll ever be comfortable with it because I've hit so many shots the other way that it just, like, any kind of pressure creeps in, I know the old pattern's coming back. So
a phrase John Sherman used recently that I liked it for you is the juice worth the squeeze for all of this?
It's a really good question. I've gone back and forth on that a few times. And I don't know that I have a good definitive answer. I will say I don't hit golf balls as much as I used to. So I'd like to get better. I want to get to the plus side. I've never been to the plus side. I want to try to get there. And I think making some changes is going to allow me a better opportunity to do that. I don't have as much time to hit golf balls as much as I used to. So I need to make the mechanics a little bit better, because previously I was just grinding on skill development, and I got probably as much skill out of the swing that I had that you could, but that required a massive amount of effort, and I just don't have that kind of time anymore. So the mechanics need to be a lot better for me to get where I want to go, I think.
It needs to be lower maintenance.
Needs to be much lower maintenance. It needs to be much more predictable. Like my club face control can be way off. Even my path, which is typically pretty consistent for people, can be way off now. And that's, it's tough when the face is able to go
Yeah.
a lot of different ways and the path is able to go enough different ways where, some days it's great. Like you just everything. And then some days it's like, I literally have no clue where it's going.
What do you do when you have no clue where it's going? Like how, and you got Tuesday night league and you're, I don't know if, do you get to warm up any before? I mean,
But yeah, I'll warm up here at home before I go, and
sure.
hit a few on the range when I get there. Again, like I'm super competitive. I want to play as well as I possibly can, but I don't get upset. I'll go out there. I will. For me, when I'm not playing well, like I can't. If something is an 8-iron, I'm not going to take like a 3/4 7. I'm going to take a 9-iron and smash it. So I typically will swing. I will typically take a less club with my irons and try to smash it, and that seems to help me
Okay, it
get
helps.
through what
Okay,
I'm.
it's not like
Yeah.
a emotional decision.
No,
It's
no,
a
no,
it's a
no.
good
I'm just,
decision.
I'm trying to hit it harder. Like
I got you.
when things are going sideways for me and I have no clue where it's going, getting slower, like just seems to make me more steery.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to guide it around where if I smash it, I think I'm definitely way more of a mathlete than I am an athlete, but some athleticism I think kicks in when I'm going at it hard. So that I try to do that when I'm going at it. And so I'll try to start turning things over and just smashing it. And then have
Yeah.
fun.
Okay. Yeah. And I know you do a lot of work that isn't about your own golf game, which is fascinating stuff. But I am genuinely curious of
Yeah.
how you think about your own game. So when you um what makes you out on the golf course, what makes you get frustrated and angry like Adam had when angry? Do you ever get that angry?
I haven't gotten that angry in 20 plus years, like I was a lot younger. And definitely, had moments on the golf course when I was, 22 years old. So I don't get that angry anymore at all at golf. And even when I did, it wasn't the worst. I'm a pretty laid back guy for the most part, pretty chill, pretty relaxed. I think one of the things that gets me frustrated on the golf course when I do get frustrated is poor decisions. It's not outcomes, it's poor decisions. And that's kind of frustrating to me. And I will do that sometimes. And even like sometimes, like I hate that. I know we're talking about my golf game, but I hate when I'm like on the bag with one of my college players and we're talking through a situation and I give them the wrong club, the wrong, or I confirm like what I know is the wrong play for them. Because I don't, there's that balance of like, you don't want to, you want to be careful. You're always in a balancing act when you're talking about somebody else's game. They
Yeah.
have to hit the shot.
Right.
You don't have to hit the shot, but I definitely kick myself when I make bad decisions. And those are the decisions where afterwards you're like, I can't believe that I just completely whiffed on that. Like, what am I doing? Like, how could you even think of hitting this club in this situation? My home club has a par 3 that you need to cover water on, and it's a pretty challenging hole, especially when it's into the wind. And I've gone out there, and there's sort of this tucked peninsula in the front left, and it's like if you hit it pin high, or 2 yards past pin high and 15 feet right, it's wet, right? It's one of
Wow.
those. And so you have to be deep. And I've just gone up there, not mindlessly shot the flag and just tried to hit it to that number. And I do that every once in a while. And those kind of really bother me when I mindlessly do that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It drives me nuts. Or if I don't really pay attention to where a flag is, like if I'm not, sometimes we have a couple of holes where you can't really tell exactly where it is. And like I'm typically out there walking and I don't have a pin sheet and, I'm not in a golf cart with a thing that shows me where it is on the green. I'm like, there's been times where I don't even try to estimate if it's front or back because sometimes it's tough to tell. And that drives me nuts. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, those are the things that probably get me the most frustrated. Other than that, like if I shank one, if I shank two in a row, like I don't play golf for a living. I'm not feeding my family with these golf shots. I really don't care. And in a weird way, I don't mind when I play bad because I look at it as an interesting and fun challenge to try to navigate my way around the golf course with whatever I have that day. And so there's been times where, I've hit some really weird shots, really weird plays to just try to manage a score. And I try to find that fun.
Mm. That's a really good way to go about a round of golf that hedges against anger. It keeps it really hard to be angry if you are. This is a kind of a fun experiment to see what I have today instead of
Yeah.
it should go this way, it needs to go this way. Why isn't it going this way? And now I'm
Right.
angry.
Yeah. I think that's, I avoid that. Yeah. I just try to go out there and legitimately just have fun. Don't matter. It really doesn't matter what I shoot. And if it's not going well that day, I'm really trying to figure out a way to shoot the best score I can that day. And I find that oddly entertaining to try and do that. I find it oddly entertaining. There's been times where I've picked targets that were just so far away from a hazard or trouble because I had no idea where the ball was going. And like I'll double cross it and I'll hit it even, if I'm aiming way left, I'll hit it even further left. But, I avoided penalty strokes and now I'm just trying to scramble from there. So I think it's fun to do that
Yeah,
occasionally.
sure. Do you have a personal way that because what you just said about the kind of peninsula whole location and kind of mindlessly just go up and hit to that flag. Do you have a personal way of part of your routine or something that kind of makes you check in on, am I making a good strategic decision, or does it just kind of live within you and you don't ever have to like check yourself to make yourself do it?
No, yeah, that's just kind of part of how I approach. Yeah, that just is not. Yeah, it's not something I'm thinking through. Typically, I'm just, and it's really not that hard. Like at the end of the day, like where's the pin? Okay, it's on the left side. All right, well, I probably want to be to the right of it. It's really, it can get a whole lot more granular than that. But, if we're looking at a 50,000 foot view here, all right, it's a front pin. Okay, I want to be a little bit long. Oh, wait, there's water on the left. Okay, I really want to be to the right here. Oh, there's water, in play with driver. Okay, better not hit driver. I better hit something that's gonna be short of whatever. So it's really not rocket science at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things I look at and think about that probably lots of other people are not looking at and thinking about, but it's really pretty basic stuff at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can go granular. And this is how Adam Young talks about there's like, you could boil it down to just hit this spot on concrete. If you can do that consistently, then you know how to strike the ball well. And then I say, okay, but then why do you have, thousands of other ideas about the game? Well, you can go granular if you really want to. There's more, but it's pretty simple
It is. Yeah, it
mostly.
really is pretty simple. Aim to
Yeah.
the fat side, and the worse you are, the more to the fat side you need to aim.
Yeah. Where should players set their stat benchmarks? This is something I'm curious about. Like, how far ahead of your own game should you set your benchmark?
That is a really good question. It's the first time that anyone's ever asked me that question. So that's a good
Cool.
one. I've looked a little bit at like player performance, player improvement, and I would tell you that and some of this is going to be contingent upon how much work you're putting in.
Yeah.
Like if you play 9 holes a week and you practice twice a month, it's going to be tough to improve. If you are practicing on a regular basis and you have a coach, and you can put in the effort, I think you can be a little bit more aggressive with how much you're trying to improve. And that's where using a stat tool like Arcos really helps. And I just say them because I'm affiliated with them. But if I'm working with a player, yes, I'd love them to use Arcos, but I don't care if you use another app or use the back of a napkin. It's important to keep and track those stats. And, if you are the typical golfer getting in 30, 40 rounds a year, if that's typical, if I can paint that as typical, and you're practicing a couple times a week and you'll maybe get a few lessons a year, I don't think it's unreasonable to try to get yourself 3, 4 shots ahead of where you are. And I think you can help the improvement process by doing things in your home. I think you can talk to your coach. There's probably mirror work you can do. You can get a short club and do slow motion work. You can try to develop some feels. There's lots of things you can work on without having to hit a golf ball, including with not even having a golf club in your hand, like, exercising, getting stronger, getting more mobile, maybe doing some speed training, things like that. Huge, huge impact. So I think looking 3 ahead is pretty reasonable. Again, it depends on where you are. Like, what are you, like a +4 right now? +3, +4, whatever you are. You're
Plus,
really good. Whatever. I don't care. You're a jerk. Just whatever with your plus side nonsense. But if you're a +4, like getting to +7, like that's really, really hard for you. If you're a 1 index and you want to get to a +2, that's a lot harder than an 18 trying to get to a 15. So some of it is going to be dependent on not only how much time you have, but where you currently are. And again, we've all heard that before. That's not
Sure.
rocket science. But
Yeah.
for most of you, if you're a 12 index, I'd try to get to a 9 by the end of this year. I think you can get there. You have to put in the work, though. And I think that's where a lot of people fall down is they dream about being a 9. They dream about getting to those single digits. And then they play Tuesday night with their buddies on Saturday morning and they never practice. And they stay at 12.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta put in what you want out.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree.
Yeah. Do you feel like you are putting in the effort to get to plus? Like, do you feel like you're matching your effort to your goal?
Yeah, sort of. It's been a struggle since 2023 with the ankle injury. So I had the ankle injury, and I basically lost all of 2023. And then last year in 2024, I dealt with another issue kind of on the left side. It was kind of related to the ankle, and it just kind of went up the chain and got into my calf it's been a struggle since I hurt my ankle.
Yeah.
And so I'm working as hard as I possibly can. I've been trying to do as much as I can, but it's fascinating. Like I've been on force plates before and after the ankle injury. And so for those that have ever been on force plates, like my verticals, my peak verticals used to be so much more than they are. And they used to happen, kind of before impact, kind of where you wanted them to. And now my peak verticals are significantly less and they happen like slightly after impact. And I'm just, as a right-handed golfer, I'm just struggling so hard to get to the left side and kind of really push off the ground because my body is just not able to do that. So I'm doing as much as I can given the ankle issue, which stinks. It's not fun. I wish it was. When I heard it, and the orthopedic, originally they said it was broken, and I went to that's what they said in the ER, and I went to an orthopedic like day and a half later. And the surgeons looked at the new x-rays and said, I don't know what your ER doctor is smoking, but there's no break there. Let's do an MRI. Let's make sure. And there was no break. And I remember him saying, I told him I was a golfer, and I remember him saying, you're going to probably wish it was a break and not a high ankle sprain, because a high ankle sprain is going to be a whole lot worse than a break would be.
Dang.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to turn this into a session of feel bad for Lou, but it's been no fun.
No, that's extremely relatable because a lot of people, either I interview or people hear me or whatever, they're like smooth sailing to improvement, but that's not how things are in reality for most golfers, even if it's not injury related, even if it's just life related.
Right.
So managing your expectations, knowing your current skill level, knowing what it takes to get better, that's extremely important, especially if you have something impeding you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, 2025 will be the year that we make some progress.
Okay. So what are you setting your benchmark 3 shots ahead of?
Well, I finished 2022 as like a 2.2, 2.4, like somewhere in there, and was probably hitting it the best I'd ever hit it in my life. I'd been lower than that, but I wasn't hitting it as good. My goal is to get back to where I was at the end of 2022 this year. So I'd be looking to drop probably 5 shots right now, maybe 6 this year.
Let's go.
But it just I think mixing in the swing changes may prohibit that.
Yeah, for longer term benefit, but maybe shorter term might not get there as fast.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm looking at this as a couple-year project.
Sure.
Any advice?
I was going to ask you about kind of like, what percentage of each part of your game should you practice, like how to structure practice. Do you feel like you are structuring your practice well, or are you kind of just showing up and working on your swing all the time?
I've just recently, I've been working just on swing most of the time for the last probably 4 months, over the winter time here in the Northeast. And so mostly it's been swing work, positions, trying to, get certain numbers and move in a certain way and change my movement pattern. But now I've started to transition to skill practice because there's no way I can continue to just only work on the swing the entire year and expect to go out and play good golf. There was probably a month and a half, like all of December and the first half of January, where I didn't hit a golf ball. I probably took 100 swings a day, but I didn't hit a real golf ball. I was hitting foam golf balls.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I went for a long time without even making contact with a real golf ball, and during that time I wasn't even at full speed. Like if I swing, my 7-iron, 88 miles an hour, whatever it is, I was swinging it at like 68, 67,
right.
Which is a lot slower.
Yeah.
That's really, really slow compared to what your full swing is. So I was working really slow and only hitting foam balls, but I can't do that all year. I'd probably change my movement pattern faster, but I do want to go out and play some golf and have some fun and try to shoot some good scores. So I'm back so I feel like I'm probably going to regress a little bit.
Yeah, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and keep going like that. You'll get there. It just may be slower.
I'll never get to where you are. That's for sure.
I mean, I'm at a plus 0.8, so I'm where you're trying to get to.
I feel like you as a plus 0.8 and me as a plus 0.8, if I got there, I'd be a total fraud if I got there. I'd be doing it with smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, right. Playing red tees or something, or short tees.
No, that's actually the opposite. Like if you,
tell me.
Yeah, so I've written about this a couple times. If you do you play member guest?
Yeah, I have.
Ever?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what you do. Like a few months leading up to the member guest, play the shortest tees at your club. Your partner, shortest tees. Get as many rounds in as you can at the shortest tees because your index is going to go up.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not because you're going to play worse or whatever. I think there's just some bias in the handicap system. Distance is a huge factor in course rating, and it's not that it's not that they make distance too important. Is I think the lack of distance is way too much of a factor in how they do things. And so when you play forward tees, yeah, I'm probably not doing a great job explaining it, but your differentials are going to go up and your index is going to go up by a decent amount. Like if you probably play 6,800, 6,900 all the time, somewhere in there. Course rating, 74-ish, somewhere like that. If you went and played a course rating at 69 all the time instead of 74, your index you'd probably be a 0.5.
Yeah.
You'd get probably a shot to a shot and a half worse.
Yep. Right. Because I'm not going to magically shoot 5 shots better every time just because it's 1,000 yards shorter.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Is that the idea?
Yeah. You just won't. I have several million rounds here that I've looked at, and you will score higher you'll have higher differentials from shorter tee boxes than you do from the back tee boxes.
So the chasing scratch guys, I interact with them a lot. I was on their podcast earlier today actually, and they're trying to get to scratch, and they're at a 4 handicap or something, and they've talked about how not to game the system. They tried that early on in their show of let's play the short tees all the time. And that's interesting information that you're saying that. So let's say, okay, they're at a 4 handicap. How do they drop 4 shots? Is there it doesn't matter who you are, this is the best way to do it, even if it's smoke and mirrors?
No, it depends on the player. Yeah. It's hard to answer that, right? Because everybody's different, and that's why it's important to keep your own stats so you know where your weaknesses are. And I think I've told you the story of the 10 handicap players, right? So let's say you and I are both 10 handicap. We both have a 10 index, and we show up on the first tee to play a match against each other. And what's your index? I'm a 10. Oh, I'm a 10 too. All right, cool. We're going to play this straight up, no strokes. You happen to be in the top 5% of putters out of 10 index players. So out of all the 10, remember, we're both 10s. There's no strokes. We're playing straight up. You are in the top 5% of putters. I'm in the bottom 5% of putters. So if there were 110 indexes there randomly selected, you'd be in the top 5 putters. I'd be in the bottom 5 putters. How much skill difference per round is there between us in putting? Number of strokes skill difference between the two of us in putting per round. What is it?
It's got to be small.
What do you think? Give me a guess.
Half
Number
a
of
shot.
strokes. 6 shots.
Whoa.
6 shots. So I would be 6 shots worse than you at putting.
Whoa.
If I could magically putt like you overnight, I would go from a 10 down to a 4.
Whoa.
Yeah, 6 shots. So just because we're both 10 indexes, we're getting there in different ways.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own fingerprint. Everybody has their own blueprint. And so as a default, you could say to most amateur players, if you really want to get better and you really want to be a scratch player or a plus player, you need to be a better ball striker. You need to be really good with your irons, really good with your driver. You need to hit your driver long enough. And as a default rule, that's true. I could say that about most players, and I'm going to be spot on. But not everybody fits that mold. And there's a lot of people that are kind of in between. And so knowing what you need to work on is really important. So if both of us showed up to the lesson tee, any teacher, if they were just kind of taking the general typical approach, we'd both be working on ball striking. Well, I'm already a really good ball striker. I just can't putt for beans. I need to be working on my putting. I need a putting lesson. I don't need a ball striking lesson, because if I can learn how to putt like you, that's 6 shots better.
Right.
I'm hitting the ball, and you are just the opposite. You are compensating for the weaknesses in your ball striking by being an unbelievable putter.
Right. Is there this a similar top five, bottom five for each part of the game, driving, approach, and
Yeah,
short game?
there's a pretty big difference between, putting and approach play have the biggest delta between them, and then off the tee and short game a little bit lower, but it's still, 3, 4 shots.
Yeah. Wow.
So, that's why it's important to know your numbers so you can figure out what you need to work on.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. That's fascinating. I got a couple questions from people on X.
I
Let's hit
love that
them.
you call it X, by the way.
I'm tired of. I think I'm tired of pushing back against. It's X. It's
Yeah,
X.
it's fine. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I love
All right.
it.
It's like yeah. Okay. So Matt on X, with all the available stats that Lou provides his players, has he seen an appreciable difference in their approach to the game and their outcomes? Maybe their approach game and their outcomes. In other words, do you ever help anybody get better? is what it sounds like this person's asking.
Yeah, I've seen big differences in players. Strategy, analytics, stats, the things that I work in. Working with players, you can see some big gains overnight. And I feel like the work that I do with the Princeton team, we've made some really good gains that I'm really proud of, and we're ranked, I think, 76th right now in the country. We were ranked as high as 69th like a
Okay.
week ago, week and a
Sure.
half ago. That kind of changes as different tournaments play and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
happen. You remember how it is.
Yep.
That's the highest that Princeton's ever been in the history of
No way.
Princeton. Yeah, and it's one of the highest rankings that I think the highest ranking men's Ivy League team, I think for a very, very brief period of time, Yale got to like 68th like 15 years ago. But I don't think from what I understand, I don't think any Ivy League team's ever been higher than that. So like we are performing right now at a really high level, and I'm certainly like not going to take credit for that. We have some amazing players that work really hard. Our head coach has done a phenomenal job at recruiting some great talent, but I feel like we definitely we're trying to moneyball things as much as we can, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I do think that we've made it helps. It doesn't hurt. It's definitely
Yeah.
net positive. There's no question.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. The other question was when did you start coaching Princeton?
This is my 4th season with Princeton,
Okay.
so I'm coming here to the tail end of my 4th season with them. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a blast. It's a
Yeah.
ton of fun. I love getting to be around the team, be around the players, be a part of it. I'm part-time assistant coach. I go to practice, a few days a week. And our season's really short. Like it's really short in the fall and it's longer in the spring, but it's still short. And I travel to all the tournaments. So it's awesome getting to be a part of that. And yeah, it really is fun. I absolutely enjoy it. If there was a true opportunity, if it made sense, and there was a way for me to be a caddy in professional golf, like that would probably be my dream job.
Really?
I would love that, but yeah, that would never happen.
Why not?
One, I think it's a hard gig. Like two, like it's a hard gig. It's physically demanding.
Yeah.
You're away from your family all the time, and unless you get a really good bag, like yeah, and then like for a lot of them, there's not a ton of job security. Like for the players like we know, the Grellers and all that of the world that have been on the same bag for a long time, but like there's definitely some movement in that. So, but
There's
it would
an
be fun.
underbelly
Yeah.
of caddies that just rotate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love getting to be a part of the team. I love getting to just to play a small part in what we do. It's amazing. So, shout out to the team. Shout out to our head coach Will Green. For having me. It's really fun to be there.
Yeah, no doubt you're helping because I don't personally know any other college teams, and maybe you do, that have a dedicated person that specializes in statistics. And is that your role there? Is it like Lou is our statistician or
Yeah, I definitely, that's what I do. They all use Arcos, so everybody on the team uses Arcos,
nice?
and I get to do some really cool stuff with the data because I have access to the actual data. So I get to do some really cool stuff with it when what I look at and how I look at it, which is awesome. And when I walk with them for rounds, I walk with one player almost exclusively. And I just stay with that player for the entire round and, basically act as a caddy. So we
Yeah.
walk through, help them talk through targets, help them with club selection, basically doing everything but carrying the clubs as a caddy because college kids have to carry their own stuff.
Right, right.
So it's amazing, right? I can just kind
Yeah.
of walk next to them. It's great. So I love doing it. It's of all the things I do in golf, that is by far the most fun that I have is when I get to be out there and kind of walking with them and being kind of part of the just part of the team in that way.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, Lou, this has been great. You've always got something going on. So, as far as like where you want to send people, what you want to promote, or what's the latest? Where do you want people to go from here?
Check out my newsletter. Just go to loustagnergolf.com and you can sign up right there. I send out a weekly newsletter. I
It is truly weekly, everyone. It's the
Yeah.
most clockwork thing I've
Well,
ever
I
experienced.
definitely have missed a few here and there.
Have you really?
I
Okay.
have, just because it's like traveling with the team sometimes. Life just kind of gets in the way. What's his name? He does the Jared Dorfler. Is that his name? He has
Something like
his
that,
own
yeah.
little putter company now, Hannah Putters or something, and he's been doing a newsletter on the business side of golf, and he like hasn't missed a week in like 2 years, and
Wow.
it's
Okay.
super impressive.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that, but yeah, go check that out. I put out some really cool, interesting things. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can attest to that. I've unsubscribed from so many newsletters and I keep Lou's there. Just if nothing else to learn how to make mine better, but Lou's got good stuff.
Well, I
So
appreciate
yeah, go
that.
check
Yeah,
it out.
thank you.
Yeah, man. All right, Lou. Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Look forward to doing it again sometime.